T. It's in the name.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about parenting in general. I'm sitting here 6 years since my kiddos came to my house, so we're going to talk a little bit about that right after these messages.
The Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis is brought to you by Freedom 5K on July the 8th. We will be running it in the Shoals area, and all proceeds go to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I hate to see children suffer. I used to avoid St. Jude commercials because I just couldn't bear to see the images of kids fighting for their life against a dreaded disease. Then one day we got the call. Several weeks before, doctors in Huntsville had performed surgery on my son to remove a small tumor on his face. The call was from St. Jude. The doctors in Memphis wanted to take more margin around the tumor and run more tests. Within days, we were walking the halls and pulling cypress in the famous Little Red Wagons. I had to see the kids, a lot of them, some in wheelchairs, many missing hair as a result of their treatments. People from all over the world and all different backgrounds. All came for one reason, hope. Hope that they would be able to find a cure. It's that hope that gets me to run even when I don't feel like it. I run not for me, but for the young ones. I run to give them hope. Thankfully, my son is doing well. He bears the mark of St. Jude on his left cheek in the form of a scar. But it's a reminder to me of the fight that other kids are still fighting every day. The Freedom 5K on July 8th is just one more way to raise money for St. Jude. If you can run, then we hope that you will sign up. If you would like to sponsor, you can do that too. For more information or to register, go to benandtravis.com/store. That's benandtravis.com/store.
I'm Travis Creasy. That's All Pro Counselor Ben Hayes.
And that is the youth minister and the Alfred of our podcast, Will Mahan.
If only that was true, considering for the past 15 minutes, we've tried to get Ben's computer to work. So I guess Alfred has failed today, but how are y'all doing?
And pretty good. It's been a pretty good day so far. How about you, Travis? How's your legs today?
They're good. My legs are good. I'm sitting here with a surprising first place trophy or a medal in my division. I did not see that coming. There were not a whole lot of people in my division, but I'm going to take it. There was enough to where there was a first, second, third place, and so I'm taking it and running with it. Pun intended. I don't know if that's a pun or not. It was a great day yesterday. It's a beautiful day to run, especially earlier in the day. Today it's a little breezy, a little cold outside, a little rainy, but we'll take it. But I'm doing well. A lot of things have went down. We had the special Friday refresh crossover, Helping Healing Humor crossover. That was really great. I hope everyone had a tremendous Easter and living from it today and all the great things that go on with that. Ben, you have made a trip up to Nashville for Lads to Leaders since we last spoke. How did that go?
It went great. It is a little bit smaller in Nashville than CYC is, I guess. I think there's about 10,000 in Nashville. And then there was, of course, other places, Little Rock, Atlanta, Orlando. I'm not even sure all the different places now that they have it. So if you add all those together, it's probably well over the number we have at, the one gathering at CYC. But it was awesome. Had a good showing of kids from Highland Park. We enjoyed it. And then yesterday we got to, with our family, do Easter egg hunt since we had missed out on that last weekend. Played a little softball over the week. Softball got rolling this time, so busy time of year again.
You're coaching your kiddos?
I'm coaching two of them. I'm coaching Cypress's baseball team with Evan Mansell from here at church, and then Kenya is coaching Bransley's team, and so I'm helping out with it. And then not coaching Stana's, but thankfully we have Zach Morgan and Blake Holloman, who are the umpires for that league every single week. So that's fun to watch and to yell at Blake Holloman every so often.
Well, Will, what have you been up to, man? I know you've been getting busy. And of course, you're not even in your busy time of the year. Like summer's right around the corner and you're still always out there serving these kiddos. I hope they appreciate it.
Maybe so. Here here recently, it's just been a lot of sports events, soccer games, tennis. Those individual sports like tennis, golf, track, all those have kind of become some of my favorites because I guess as a team, you can kind of get away with winning every now and then, but the individual ones get pretty intense. But the issue is you can't scream for them. It's like you can't scream in a tennis match or a golf match. Track you can. So just a lot of running around. Lindsay and I talked yesterday, and I think from the first weekend in May all the way through the third week in June, we are gone or have something. So, and then that just ends with Maywood. Busy time, but a good time. Always good to be busy.
And we obviously appreciate everybody. We have a tremendous amount of support and a tremendous system that does that. So we can't ever really say enough about how thankful we are. Of course, as mentioned, going in, we got a few events coming up. We have all, or at least have committed to registering to raise money for St. Jude in some shape, form, or fashion for Team Ben and Travis. And so once again, we're doing the Batify 5K, Freedom 5K in July. So we encourage you to sign up for that. That's a way to help us do that. Also, I hadn't posted this anywhere, but I am doing my online streaming baseball league. And if you donate $100 to St. Jude, you can name a team, you can own a team, you can name it, change the mascot, change the colors. For $25, you can join a team. I'll put you on a team, your name, all the things that you want to be good at. That's what you'll be good at. Whatever position you want to play, that's where you'll play. So we're getting creative.
If you have ever dreamed a dream of playing in the big leagues, this is your chance.
This is your chance. Yes, the Ben and
Travis can be bought.
Baseball league. Yes, very much so. But I did want us to kind of jump on and talk a little bit since it has been, this is 6 years today. It's Sunday, the 16th of April. And 6 years ago today, I was sitting in this very room playing video games at like 11 p.m. I'd just come in from somewhere off the road and was just trying to relax. And Whitney came down the steps and she said, they've called us. They got 2 kiddos. And we game for this. And it was like, well, we've prayed about it. Everybody else has prayed about it. So if the Lord's on board, let's roll. So there you have it. Our the days of binging things on TV were over, and but for a good reason. And so it's been a wild ride. It's been a roller coaster ride being a dad, and you guys know what it's like to be called dad. And so that's a surreal moment. So I guess my first question is, what was kind of the moment where it hit you that you are now in the club?
It's been too long ago for me to answer that. I can't remember what happened.
One, you've got at least,
This is if I can preference Ben's answer here. I'm checking people in at church this morning, like going down our roster, and I looked at Ben. I said, "Hey, is your whole family here?" He goes, "Yeah, except Jackson. He's not feeling well." Mark's whole family present. He texts me an hour later and goes, "Oh, by the way, Cypress wasn't at church. He's at his grandparents' house." It's like, you have too many kids when you don't even know where they are.
I don't know where they're at. So, I woke up at like 6:30 this morning, got ready, was at the church by 7, and my kids, everybody was still in bed. So when I got here, I sit on the front row. They came in late, sat somewhere. I didn't know. So I forgot. Totally forgot. But yeah, I mean, I guess it was probably, there's no different feeling than when you're told, hey, we're having a baby. I mean, that's just one of those moments with every one of them. I mean, there's excitement. There's, oh my goodness, fear that runs through your body that says, I'm not prepared. I'm not ready. I don't know what I'm doing. I prayed that Solomon prayer a bunch, basically, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing. Help me know how to lead my people sort of thing. And I mean, I guess it's that. But really, when you have to start saying no to things, when you said that, you're like, I'm downstairs playing video games. And then they call and say, we got 2 kiddos. And I wanted to ask you, was that the last time you played video games? Because there's those things that then start saying no to or start sacrificing. And I think that's the point where it really starts sinking in when you go, well, I would have always taken that spot or done that thing, but now I'm willing to just sort of hand that over to my kids and let them have it. Or I'd have spent money on this, but I have kids, so that's where the money is going to go to. So I think it's those things that sort of sank in with me at some point. But like I said, it's been so many years ago. I don't remember the exact thought, but I remember some of those things.
Well, I think for me, I mean, of course, Lindsay told me that she was pregnant with Emmy's Super Bowl. It was Super Bowl night. We're the last ones packing up, and then we get home, and I'm exhausted because we've just been going all day. And she's like, oh, by the way, got a surprise. We're pregnant. I was like, holy cow. I wasn't really expecting that. And so I think that the initial emotion was terrified. What in the world do I even do? Like, I've been dealing with teenagers for the past 13 years. And it's like, I've always said, give me 30 teenagers over one 5-year-old, because I don't know how to function with a 5-year-old. And so I think that was that fear of, am I going to be good at this, or am I just going to fail miserably, was definitely there. I think the first thing that I really, where it kind of sank in, we're like, okay, this is for the long haul, was I think I got in trouble 3 or 4 times with the nurses in the hospital for doing stuff wrong. And it was like every day, like I remember I fell asleep on the couch holding Emmy, and they came in, woke me up, ticked off because I was holding her and she wasn't in her little crib. At one point I walked her down the hall and the alarm starts going off. I didn't know they even had alarms, in the hospitals connected to babies. It makes sense now. It was like every day I was just doing something wrong constantly. And so I think it was that emotion was, wow, like there are certain things that I've actually got to do right here. And not that it was crazy stuff. It was just the reality of, reinforced, hey, you're not good at this. And so
it's like day 1, you did this wrong. Day 2, you did this wrong. Day 3, you did this wrong. Day 4, here, take them home.
Yeah.
And figure it out. That's the scary part.
And all I was doing was sitting in a chair napping with her, but they were mad at that. And I was going, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, And so I think just having people tell you that you're not doing something right, I think just reinforces to you, hey, maybe I'm not ready for this. And I think as any parent knows, there's no, one certain way to do it, because every kid's different, but there's no shortage of opinions that you're doing it wrong as a parent.
That's what I was going to say, Will, when you said, am I going to be good at this, or am I going to fail miserably? And the answer to both of those is yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Which moment in time are we talking about?
Yeah.
That's anything experiential. Like, yes, you're going to fail miserably at this, and you're going to do some things good, sometimes by just mistakenly doing something right. But yeah, I get that feeling big time.
So Travis, yours is a much different feeling, because ours was, we have 9 months to prepare for this baby coming into the world. And I guess you had like 9 months to prepare, but you were taking classes actually about how to do things right. We didn't take those. But you prepared for a while, but then y'all just got a call and you already have 2 babies or kids that can run around pretty much. And they're just right there in your lap the moment you get the call pretty much. So what was that like for you? When did all that settle in for you?
Well, I'll say that it was nice to have you on speed dial. So the counseling, and you had 5, 4 maybe at the time, I can't remember, but you had several to where you could give me some advice about what needed to be purchased at Walmart for sure. But I guess it was probably the first time I got sent to do the diaper, I guess. That's probably something very similar to other dads out there maybe, but that was kind of where it hit me. It was like, talking about have not done this before. I might have helped with Kevin's, which is a fun thing to think about. But I certainly wasn't alone. I just remember kind of being there, and I can't remember, I guess it was Daniel. I can't remember which one it was, but just kind of being up there in my bedroom alone, like changing this poopy diaper for the first time. And it's like, oh, this is for real. Like, I'm not changing this and sending them somewhere else. I'm changing this in preparation to change it again in just a short while. But I think the sleep situation, like, you just went from, like I said, everything was kind of leisurely. I remember all that stuff as slow paced before, and it just seemed like everything got put in fast forward. And like you said, you're just learning things from the fire hose. You're just getting blasted in the face, and it's like so fast that you can't even really contemplate the failure. It's like it's just on to the next thing. It's almost like the next play in the sport. Like, you just don't have time to dwell on, man, I really botched that one. The diaper's on backwards. Or with fellas, sometimes you got to make sure that thing's on there right, because they're can get out of the barn pretty easily. And then it's really bad. It's just fast paced. Like you're saying, it was a regular Sunday, Easter Sunday evening. We were about to shut her down and get ready for school the next day. And it was like, for Whitney, it was like, you're not going back to school this week. Like, this is number one, and this is what you have to deal with. And of course, with the foster system, you're inviting not only those two kiddos at home, but anybody else who has invested interest in their lives. So it was wild. It was wild.
So with all that in mind about being parents now, and some of us for a long time, what are some things that you have learned, Will, if you want to start, from being a parent? Like, what are those big lessons that you think you've learned?
I think for me, I always go back to this passage where Jesus said, unless you become like a little child, you can't enter in the kingdom. And I've always tried to think, like, what does that mean? And how does that work in an adult's life? And I think the thing that I've learned the most is like the trust. Just Amy's trust in Lindsay and I, how I call it like a reckless abandon trust. It's just whatever we're going to do, whatever we say, hey, this is what we're going to do. She just, yes, like, I'm all in. It's an adventure. Here we go. And I love that aspect, because I think sometimes as I have grown older, I know as other people grow older, we kind of just get stuck in our ways. And it's just, I've got this routine. Here's what I'm going to do. And that is not the way that my child lives her life at all. Like, routines, patterns, like, they don't exist. It's just, hey, we are waking up to the sunshine, and here we go. And I just love that idea of, she's just so trusting that whatever we want to go do, she's in on it. And some of that may be the fear of missing out that I kind of have, and she may have gotten a little bit of that, but just the willingness to go along with things as they change. And that's taught me a little bit, maybe, to not take life so serious. I know sometimes as we get older, we get caught up in a lot of things, and we worry about a lot of things that we just have zero control over. And that's just not her. And I know every kid's different, as we've already said, but just her ability to roll with the punches. And it is what it is. Let's go. And we're going to go 100%, because I think she's just willing to trust that Lindsay and I are going to do what we can to make life fun, make it enjoyable. And that's what she wants. And it's not being so concerned or worried about everything else. And it's just been fun. She loves life. She's really taught me to, like, hey, just relax. There's a lot of things that you get caught up worried about that just aren't worth the time.
It's definitely made me more of a considerate person. So, if you've met me recently, you're like, he's not very considerate. Just imagine, when the mess that we have every day to get to school. And people probably would look at us and go, fairly normal. But that is it. That's the norm. Like, people have mess in their life. And so it's really helped me go to school and go, if we had the day we had trying to get here, think about other people, consider what they may have been through to get there, or what they're going through. And so it's been a lot easier for me to go, I don't care for the most part how people treat me. Like, you can say pretty much whatever you want to say to me, and you guys have, and that's the relationship we have. But it's different when you're talking to my kids. Like, hey, I want you to challenge my kids. I don't want you to let them get away with anything. And I'm old school. I'm gonna side with the teacher. And they know that. But it also kind of helps me be considerate of the other kids. Like, they send them to Riverside or church in the hopes that I'm going to assist them in their relationship, growing their relationship with Jesus. And so that comes home. And oftentimes I'm reminded, once again, where Jesus talks about the offending a little one, that it'd be better for a millstone to be tied around your head and you throw it into a large body of water than to hurt the relationship of one of these little ones with me. And so it's kind of one of those things where, first of all, I don't want to do any harm. And second of all, I want to do unto others as I would have them do unto my children.
For me, I think about how time flies. I didn't realize how fast time moved. I always had people tell me time's going to fly. You won't even realize how fast it is till as you get older, it's just going to keep going faster. And that's totally true. But I think the other thing that kind of goes along with what you guys are saying is the resiliency of kids, that I can get onto them one moment and I think I'm the worst dad ever. And like 20 minutes later, they're coming in there and wanting to cuddle up with you and tell you some story or go play outside with you or do something. And it's like, how did I botch that up so badly and then them still like me, And I think some of that's just that willingness and wanting to adore your parents just because they're your parents. But I think some of it too, it helps me learn to be a little bit more forgiving too. Other people do stuff or say stuff, and I know I have learned through the years that they do that out of their own, frustration or their own bad day or whatever it may have been. And they're speaking from that, not necessarily about me. And so I don't know if kids understand that. If somebody gets on to me or yells at me or is frustrated with me, it's probably less about what I've done and more about what's going on in their life. And so I've tried to have a little bit more of that leeway when it comes to dealing with people when they get frustrated with me. But I just, I see that in my kids, because even my teenagers, sometimes I think, man, I really messed that conversation up. I really, whatever it was I said, and then they'll be back down there and acting like nothing happened after a little while. And that's just been amazing to me and somewhat encouraging, but also a little bit of a teaching moment for me too.
We're going to do the Batify Freedom 5K rapid fire questions of the day with All-Pro counselor Ben A. is going to see how many of these he can crank out of the park, home run derby style. So if he gets something wrong, just forgive him because you have to, especially if you're a Jesus follower. So Ben, there are circumstances that come up with kids all the time. And since you are an All-Pro counselor, we just assume you're an All-Pro parent too. So he's shaking his head.
Usually it seems as though I can figure out things with other people's kids better than I can figure it out with mine. But go ahead.
But say that you are experiencing with your kid, however old, them using language that is not appropriate. What do you think would be a good approach to handle that situation?
You want the way that my dad would have approached it or the way that I approach it?
Whatever. Give us both. That's fine.
Well, I mean, with the young ones, we have had our kids drop some language recently. Cypress said a word, and it was clearly a quote from a very popular movie, Home Alone, but he had been watching it, and he dropped that, and we kind of took a double take. I think the teenage kids heard him first, and they sort of got onto him, and then we just pulled him aside and said, hey, we know you didn't know what that word meant, but we really don't need to say that word. It's not appropriate. Certain contexts, you can say the word, but in certain ways you can't say the word, So we just kind of tried to educate. And with our older ones, we personally haven't had a whole lot of issue with that, but there's occasionally they'll use words around the younger ones that we would prefer for them not to use. And so usually it's the same way. Look, I know that, that word is probably used among your friends and it's not considered something that's bad. People at school say it. People on the movies say it. That's not the way we talk in our house. And we don't want these younger ones to go and be saying the same thing. And that would probably be my argument with any teenager is they may not think a word is wrong or they may not care, but there's other people around you that do. And so for our, kids playing sports and kids who are, doing certain things out there, and there's other kids watching them, I think that's my biggest thing is, okay, you may not feel like this impacts you, but it's going to impact other people.
So let's just say theoretically, one parent's an Alabama fan and the other's an Auburn fan. I'm just joking. For our world today, there's a lot of stuff that's bombarding our kids. And we know a lot of parents say, hey, I want to shelter my kid from everything. And then we have a lot of parents that say, hey, I'm just going to let my child experience so that they'll know what's out there. Where do you find the balance in parenting kids in the world, but not of the world?
That's a really interesting one. And it's one that probably if you ask 100 people, you're going to get 100 different answers or, at least several different answers. We have somewhat taken the approach of our kids are going to be in the world at some point and they're going to face things. There's some things I don't want them facing right now. I try to, on some level, shelter them when they're younger. As they get older, they're seeing it anyway. They're hearing things at school. There's been several times when we've heard something on a movie and I've said, I didn't realize that was in there or whatever. And they would say, I hear that all the time at school. So it's not like it's not hitting them anyway. There are parents who would say, I just want to shelter them away from it for all of their elementary, high school years, and then release them into the world. And that's a thought that I have had on more than one occasion. But at the same time, I recognize that whether they face it as a teenager or they face it in college, their brains are still practically the same, the same system update from the time that they're 14 or 15, really until their mid-20s and they're already in college. So when we send them out to college, they're still not at a, hey, I have established everything that I'm ever going to establish. So in my opinion, in some ways, and this is the gospel according to Ben, don't take this any further than what I intended. But for me, I kind of want them to make some mistakes and I want them to experience some of those things while they're still in my care. While they still come home and go, hey, Dad, this happened, or Mom, this happened, or somebody said this, or here's some things we're hearing, even if it's sometimes on TV and we go, hey, guys, they recognize that there are people who say things like that, but we don't. And we're going to experience things in the world, but that's not the way we act. And so I try to, for my part, I think the part of it is surround them with people and us as parents be, consistent in the way that we live. And I think that's more important than the things that they hear from people that they go, oh, that's not how we live.
I appreciate your answers there, and hopefully it helps somebody out there. And I just want to close out the episode that wherever you are in your journey, maybe you're one of those people that haven't had kids yet. You'd really like to. Maybe you're considering foster care. Maybe wherever you are. We hope something today has helped you. Just understand that anything that you're invested in, that means you're putting time in and you're going to make mistakes. And you may feel like the greatest parent ever right now. We feel pretty good when we do these podcasts, and then immediately we get off and something hits us in the face and we're texting each other going, oh, what do I do? Understand you're not alone. And that's the main thing when we do these pods. We want you to understand there are people out there struggling with all kinds of things, with life itself. And so if you're at the top of the mountain, good for you. Just wait till tomorrow. If you're in the valley, hey, we've all been there, and wait till tomorrow because you might be on the mountaintop. So let's focus this week on trying to help those around us, being where our feet are, and loving people around us like we love Jesus. And we'll talk at you next time, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our helping, healing, and humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.